You're tuned into the Jersey Comic Crew. This episode, we are discussing the full spoiler season of Castlevania Season 3. Find out what characters were great this season. Find out the storylines. Is Dracula back? Find out now.
We're going to talk about Castlevania Season 3.
Yay.
We just both finished it.
Yep.
On Netflix. It was a fun watch. We haven't talked about Castlevania on the show before, but we thought,
I don't think so, yeah.
You know what? Why not? It's a great show. It's fun.
And everything else is canceled, so we need something to talk about.
Exactly. Everything's canceled. We can't go out to the movies.
It's something to talk about.
So, I've done a little bit of research on Castlevania because I didn't play the games.
Neither did I.
And I know that each game, when you play, like Dracula, eventually you kill Dracula and Dracula comes back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So...
Oh, that's... The end of the game is killing Dracula, and then he comes back in the next game.
As far as I know,
So you're just continuously killing Dracula.
As far as I know,
okay.
I've tried to do a little research without spoiling myself.
Why?
Because I don't want to spoil myself.
Oh, okay. I
don't want to ruin it.
Do you know if the games are kind of going?
I don't know.
Hand?
I try not to. I know these are all characters in a game, right?
Yes.
I know they all go work together.
Yeah, Trevor Belmont's the main character. Yeah.
Correct. So Castlevania Season 3 picks up. Dracula's been killed. There are three heroes: Trevor, Sypha, and Alucard, all teamed up together. They took down Dracula. I was a little upset because I loved Dracula in this series. It was great.
I think he'll be back.
Yeah, he's going to be back, right? So this is pretty much just following like their adventures, right? Sypha and Trevor, they're on their own. Alucard is alone in his own mansion, and he's pretty much depressed.
Yeah, he's in Dracula's old castle.
And what surprised me very much is that this show took a turn in this season. Like, it's more world building now. Right?
Yeah.
So now we know that the vampire sisters are building up their own army. Hector, one of the two human servants of Dracula, was pretty much tricked into helping her, and is now captured, enslaved in there, and he's being like
Lenore, you dirty, dirty girl.
Yes, being what's the proper word? Seduced.
She called him. He's now basically her pet.
Correct. They're trying to she seduced him to work for him because he's a forge master, and in this world, that means he can make zombie demon monsters, right?
From hell.
And then we see, on the other side, we see Isaac,
who's
building up his own army to get revenge on Hector for betraying him and betraying Dracula. Essentially, he feels that he's the reason Dracula died, right?
Yeah.
And I find myself more interested in these two side characters that were introduced in Season 2
100%
than the main three.
100%.
I love the main three.
Yep.
And they didn't. It's not like they did anything wrong here.
No, to me, this was Hector and Isaac's season.
Right? And Hector, he's talking with Lenore, and Lenore, is that sexy vampire. You're like, are they going to get it on? Are they going to get it on? They get it on,
and
guys.
The whole time I'm like, don't fall for it, Hector.
Right? You're dumb.
Don't fall for the long flowing red hair and the rosy cheeks. And
I was falling for it, though.
She's still a vampire.
She
like,
took him.
Don't do it. And because you knew, right? Because out of the four sisters, you have Carnilla.
Yeah.
Carnilla. Who's obviously like the head of them, right? Like
she's like the dreamer,
the mastermind of the entire plan, and her overall plan is they want to kind of box all of Europe in to create. They're vampires. They drink blood. That's their food source. Not only to trap all the humans and make a food source, but also to
build up their empire.
Build this kind of army for them, so like one that exceeds Dracula's and one that exceeds. I think Carnilla might know like Dracula can return. I think she has something in her head that knows that.
I mean, I think,
and that's what she's plotting for, but she's not telling them.
Yeah.
And then the other two, right? One's like really smart intellectually. The other one's like the war master. She's like a warrior. She's huge.
I wish I wrote down all the names, but like I love how each of them have their own distinct role in this world, and this is kind of like I said, this is world building, right? You're falling deeper and deeper into this world, into the mythos of like, all right, this is the vampire army that's getting created,
which was totally needed.
Oh, on this other side, let's backtrack to Trevor and Sypha.
Yeah,
they're dealing with like a crazy town who almost resurrected Dracula.
The monk cult was crazy,
and like they summoned all these badass demons, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, is Dracula coming back? Is he coming back? Holy. They teased us, right?
Yeah.
But that tease just shows me, like, oh, Dracula has to come back now.
I think he already is.
You think he is?
So in Season 3, and obviously, spoiler alert.
Yeah, obviously.
Spoiler alert.
In the first 2 minutes that Dracula died.
So yeah, spoiler alert. That's from last year. That's their own fault. But like, if you take a look at the whole like kind of climax fight and kind of like the portal into hell.
Right.
That they were trying to resurrect through the monster that like was sacrificing himself, and they were doing like the blood oath. And all this for a cartoon, it's friggin' dark. It's great.
Bro,
great animation.
The animation is phenomenal. The fight scenes and how, when Trevor went behind and snuck and hit the one guy.
I love when he brought out the rose whip, too.
Oh, it was
with his chain whip. Oh, it was awesome.
He was like a workout at the gym.
Basically, yeah.
Just killing that one.
Oh, I loved Sypha.
Sypha's such a badass.
Sypha's such a badass. When she's running on top of the ice and then turns it to water and like electrocutes the one dude who's shooting bone arrows out of his arm like Spider-Man.
Oh my god! Like I thought Trevor was going to be the best.
Oh yeah, she's awesome.
But Sypha's clearly the clear winner.
Magic.
She's a monster.
Yeah, she's awesome. She was cool.
And they're banging.
Well, yeah, they're in a relationship, which was like kind of like hinted throughout the.
Yeah, I'm really excited that they're together.
Scumbag,
that was kind of scumbaggish. But they're romantically involved, and like he kind of picked up on that.
They're a couple,
yeah,
and
cute.
Their personalities are very funny.
Yeah,
because he's very much like whatever, like, and she's very like, what if we do this? And he's like, all right, go kill the monsters or whatever. And she's like, oh no, what are we gonna do?
Oh my god, when they're on the car, right?
Oh, these monsters! What am I gonna do?
They're not kind of thick.
Yeah, and she keeps going.
Oh my god, they're coming to get me! I think you can stop now. They're here.
And then she like burns the one guy's head off.
Right? She's like she takes out 3 in the time he takes out 1.
Yeah, because he's fighting hand to hand. She's like done already. But yeah, no, their relationship's great. Seeing them kind of grow into like this couple, like this fighting tandem unit.
They work very well together.
It was great to see kind of like them just mesh the different fighting styles. Obviously, their story's more with the monks in this town where they kind of just stop into.
Well, you were saying that you think Dracula's already back, so get back to that point.
Yeah, so Dracula's back, possibly. When they go into the portal and we see hell, and it's like this fire, blah, blah, blah. First of all, I don't think he was in hell. I think he was in purgatory or like a limbo. Because when you go, you see like kind of all the dead trees, and it's like really red, and that's supposed to be hell. And then it flips upside down.
Yes, it does.
And it's like kind of like this, like, you know, almost like Earth, but it's very like gray. And it's
maybe she, instead of going to heaven, waited for him in purgatory, and then they met up. They met up in the middle.
Exactly. That's what I think it was. I think to be together with his wife, which is why Dracula did what he did, because his wife was killed. Because she's a doctor, and they thought she was a witch because it's a billion years ago. And I think they're in purgatory, and I think he was released because he like kind of reaches his hand out as the portal closes, but the portal was supposed to close hell. If he's in purgatory, it's a whole different ballpark.
Oh,
so the whole point,
the whole thing, that gate, it's a gate to anywhere.
Yes, but
so just because the gate closed and reopened doesn't mean...
where's the monster from?
Hell.
And they use the monster to open the portal.
Yeah.
So if he closed the portal to hell, does he necessarily close the portal to limbo if they're in limbo?
I don't know.
So that's where my kind of like, theory of he may be back already.
Here's a question, though. Watch this. What if...
Been watching.
Okay, watch very carefully. What if Isaac or Hector stabs... Are you watching?
Yes.
Stabs one of the demons, right? And the whole thing is that when they stab a demon, they bring back a soul from hell, right? So what if that soul is Dracula?
Don't be an interpretive anything.
What if it's
maybe.
And then like he's like, and then he just takes back his form.
I could see Isaac doing that, not Hector.
I think they do it without knowing.
Maybe.
What if Hector does it without knowing because like he got frisky with Lenore, and somehow that
nevermore
gives him some kind of power, brings him back without knowing, and he's like, don't tell anybody here, I'll kill you.
Well, here's the thing with Lenore, and like we could go to Lenore's story with Hector.
Yeah.
By the end, Lenore,
she liked it. She put a ring on it.
Made these rings that like are basically like if it was Harry Potter, it would be the unbreakable vow that you see with,
wedding ring.
Snape. No, but it's kind of.
I'm kidding, hon.
It's worse.
she's gonna watch this. She'll be like, "You son of a gun."
It's way worse than a wedding ring. It is like this red and black band that Hector actually asked Lenore about in like kind of their conversations. Right, Lenore's whole job in this season is to get Hector to agree to Carnilla's plan,
yes,
and to be a forge master again. And Hector obviously hates Carnilla because she dragged him on a rope behind a horse for like 3 months.
She kind of does like the political intrigue, right? She kind of like works everything, deals with people, kind of bends.
And she's what I forget what she calls it, but she's like, she tries to get through with peace and diplomacy. She's very Star Trekian in that way, where like everything's done in diplomacy. They try to do it without fighting, without getting into something ridiculously argumentative and fighting. They try to diplomatically find a solution. So Lenore's kind of like the even-keeled one who, like, we're kind of looking at her like as like almost like the teenager, right? Compared to the 4, where she looks younger and you're kind of like, well, what does she do? When everyone else has this clear role. And we find out by the end that, oh no, Lenore can hold her own. Which we also find out very early when
she knocked him out.
When Hector tries to fight her and she turns to like ghost.
Yeah.
And like
she does to the bats and then she goes to fade out
and
of the room.
She like beats the crap out of him.
Dude, she's so good in that fight scene.
Awesome. She's now one of my favorite characters because of the season.
But during the sex scene, because like they're having sex, and during sex you say some stupid stuff, right? And he's like,
you say stupid stuff?
I don't say stupid stuff.
yeah, okay. Yeah.
You know what? We'll talk after the show.
Mm-hmm. No, we don't have to.
No, we don't have to. I don't want to talk to you.
I don't want to know.
After the show, I got to wash my hands of you because I'm afraid you might have coronavirus. But
no, I'm good.
During the sex scene, she's like getting him to say like, "Oh, that he's hers," and stuff like that, and he's like going along with it because she's and that vampire.
The goods,
right? That's the better way to say it. And then he's like, "Yes,
I think a word is better than." Any word would have been better than.
They understood I was fine, but like during that, like he submits to her, right?
Yeah.
But like,
and she slips it on,
that magical, and he didn't realize
ring.
That like he was giving up her soul.
Yeah, and she's now like, which is genius because now he is connected to her in the form of like, because their worry was he's a forge master, meaning anything he creates belongs to him. They answer to him and him only.
Correct.
How are we gonna kind of get this guy to do whatever we want when he hates us? And
he could just
turn them on us. So Carnilla's kind of like letting this go, and she's like, "This is still blah blah blah. This is crap. It's never gonna work." And Lenore has figured out this way where like, no, like they answer to him, but he has to answer to me.
And she made other rings to give to them, so they all answer to him.
Yes,
I think that's a trick. I think Lenore has her own.
Oh, she definitely has her own agenda. 100%.
I think the 100%. Rings might do that, but really, she's going to be the ringleader of the rings, if you will,
and bring down Carnilla and her
and bring down Carnilla.
Yeah, I think.
And then run the rest of it.
I agree 100%.
I would love that. I mean, there's so much like back and forth.
Oh, it's great. It's like a vampire novella.
I think it's like Game of Thrones, but vampires.
A little bit, yeah. And
I'm like, oh, I'm loving this.
I'm loving it.
So last little bit we need to talk about was Alucard, right? He's pretty much depressed in the castle. Mm-hmm. His only 2 friends have left.
He's catching fish with his hands and killing them with judo chops.
Judo chops. He made puppets of them and he's talking.
He's insane.
But eventually we get 2 humans that come in, right?
Yes.
They try to like learn from him how to take down another vampire.
Like his apprentices almost.
Correct. So. They eventually betray him, strap him up with this like silver...
Yeah. It was like a silver body harness.
Yes, there you go.
That like he couldn't use his powers. Now Alucard is the son of Dracula,
and he's half human,
but his dad is Dracula. His mother's the mother who was killed and burned. It was the nice lady who was trying to heal people with medicine.
Nice lady.
Did nothing to nobody except help them. Freaking humans. But like, he has crazy powers where he can, like, his sword is, like, extremely long.
It's magical.
It's a magical sword. He has the power to kind of phase.
Shapeshift as well.
Shapeshift, phase, his super speed, and, like, other vampire super speed strength.
Correct. So the whole point of this is, like, during another sex scene, by the way, all, like, multiple sex scenes were happening at once, and it was a fun time. But, like...
It was awkward. It was the animation. I was like... Okay,
well, I
guess we're doing it.
They just went for it.
I guess they're going.
Like, animation titty.
Animation titty.
I guess this is what's happening here. Let's just roll with it. Nobody's asking questions.
Happier than that.
No, I was happy that they were doing it. I was like, yeah,
for the love story.
Yeah, I was more happy about the love story than the sex.
This is going on. Okay,
I was more happy about. I'm like, oh,
I'm like they're taking this very seriously.
They did. But they both join him in bed and try to like make love with him.
Yeah.
They capture him, and then, like, unfortunately, he brings his magic sword that kills them.
And he's, like, basically, like, don't do this, because they're like, no, we have to kill all vampires. They came from, I believe, Japan.
Correct.
Where the head vampire there, like, they kind of have a flashback of, like, her just making them fight her until she, like, basically wins and kills them and drinks their blood, and it's, like, over and over and over again. So they basically were, like, we watched and trained, like, during the day while the vampire was asleep.
Yeah.
And at night, we had to sit up and watch her, do this to people over and over again. They were kind of like servants.
Mm-hmm.
So when Dracula in season 2 kind of called his army and his generals, she had to leave.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we want to learn how to do this so we could go back and protect our area and protect our home.
I was all on board with them. I thought they were telling the truth.
I didn't think they were going to turn on him either.
I didn't think so.
I thought it was they needed him and he needed like friends. Like he needed some living thing to talk to while he's in this massive castle by himself.
But now because of these terrible humans, he just turned his heart more cold to the rest of the world.
Yes,
right?
and at
he
the end...
stuck them on pikes to send a message to everybody else.
And I think at the very end, it seemed like he could possibly be a villain in season 4.
Oh, you think he goes dark?
It seemed like that because he has this kind of external talking to himself monologue.
He's losing his mind a little bit.
He is, and he's like, he's like, I should have, put a do not enter sign from the beginning. I should have done this and this to avoid people. And he goes, this will send the message, and it's just them on pikes. I think, and you kind of have that ending shot where he's walking into the camera and there's nothing behind the eyes. I think you might have an emotional Sypha and Trevor have to fight their friend.
I don't think it's gonna get to that point because I think Dracula's coming back.
I think Dracula's coming back.
I think he's gonna unleash his.
But what if he works with Alucard?
Oh,
and then you have a war with Dracula and Alucard, the two strongest vampire creatures,
versus
against
the other
those
ones.
sisters.
Oh, I would like that.
And the army, and maybe Isaac goes back to Dracula with his army.
No,
and
I think Isaac's gonna stay his own.
You think so?
I think it's gonna be a 3-part thing.
Isaac had a great story too. I want to talk about Isaac.
Go ahead.
So Isaac in season 2 was kind of this very awkwardly weird, to himself, uber religious to the point where I don't know if you've seen the Da Vinci Code or read the Da Vinci Code, where the guy whips himself.
I know.
He's in a very obscure.
He punishes himself for his bad behavior.
For sins. It's a very rare small sect of Christianity that does that. Where they it's hundreds of years ancient religion, the true quote unquote true believers. Isaac was one of those where he would whip himself, cut himself, burn himself for his sins, and almost like Victor Zsasz for almost every monster he made.
Correct.
And now he's kind of free of all of it after Dracula kind of saved him, and he's still a forge master, so he's kind of going from town to town getting some monsters.
What I liked was his conversation with
the one that could talk.
Ship captain.
Oh, the ship captain. Okay.
Yes, and the ship captain was like, "Okay, after you get your revenge, what is your story?
Yeah.
What's next for you? Because you're either living your story or you're part of somebody else's."
Yeah.
Trying to
which is a great line for everybody.
Into Isaac, hey, it's not all about revenge. You need to grow and do something else. And then we see him, fight, eventually take down, that one warlock guy who controlled the whole town, right?
That was awesome.
Great fight scene. Apparently, he could supercharge his dagger and make a giant one of those.
He had a spirit bomb of zombie people.
Not even that. I'm talking about when Isaac stabbed that one guy.
Oh, and made the giant dude who was fighting against it.
That
that
just shows me that we're in for a crazy season 4 if they could do that.
Yeah.
But further on, like you said, he eventually talks to one of the demons who could talk. And he remembers some of his past life. And it just adds another layer of complexity to these demon armies that we're getting. It might turn into demons versus vampires versus,
the heroes.
The heroes, right?
Or humanity.
Right? Heroes that represent humanity, which would be Alucard, Trevor, Sypha, and then maybe not Dracula joins them. This could develop in such a big world.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just excited for season 4. This, I didn't think we were gonna get more than 1 or 2 seasons, but now this season has opened up so much more to everything else. Comparatively, to wrap up my thoughts personally for season 3, I think season 1 is my favorite season still.
Mm-hmm.
That first pilot episode is probably one of the best pilot episodes in TV, anime history. So very rewatchable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Season 2, great fight scenes and stuff like that. But season 3 is going to be the season that we mark down in history as the season that changed Castlevania to this big, drawn-out epic that we all fall in love with. At least that's what I'm hoping for, and that's the future I see.
No, I hope for it as well, and I also think this is a great trendsetter and a positive thing we don't see a lot for video games becoming other medias in TV and movies. Obviously, last week we talked about Last of Us on HBO doing a live-action show. I think animation is kind of the unlimited tap source, right?
Correct. You could do anything in animation.
It's the fountain of youth that never runs out, and I think we know Nintendo's looking at it for like a Legend of Zelda animated series.
That'd
on
be great.
Like,
how much did we like the Pokemon one, the realistic Pokemon Origins?
Oh, that was so good.
How much did we love that? And we were like, that should be the show.
That should be the real show, because you would bring back, you talk about money, you'd bring back 30 years, 20 years of fans.
And like adult animation is growing more and more, because like that target audience are the kids like us who are like semi-adults now.
And grew up on animated shows and
exactly.
cartoons.
We grew up on anime, we grew up on Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon, we grew up on cartoons, Avatar The Last Airbender, Our Real Monsters, Angry Beavers, all this other stuff.
Angry Beaver Fever. Great.
Oh my God.
Hey Arnold.
Right? So, and now we're getting like these realistic, like, adult animations, Rick and Morty,
that are also taken seriously.
Correct,
right?
Well, like, we get this. We get
Rick and Morty's hilarious. Also,
Rick and Morty, also serious. Big Mouth, Harley Quinn, Paradise PD just came out with the second season.
Yep.
Arguably not as good as the first.
Season
right?
1 was way better, but
like, there's a theme here that
BoJack Horseman,
Bob's Burgers,
love Bob's Burgers.
Family Guy's been like a staple, right? So like. This whole theme of adult animation is not going anywhere. It's only going to get bigger. And more studios are realizing, we could just do anything in this and people are going to eat it up like hotcakes.
Agreed. And I think as far as video games, like obviously not everything can be made into a TV show and a movie. And Castlevania at first glance, I would have been like, really? Like they could have done anything and they chose Castlevania? Like isn't it kind of a basic... game. Like almost like an MMO style game, and
it's like a side scroller.
It's a side scroller, right? It's a 2-dimensional game, but they have opened up this world and made it interesting and made the storylines and characters in depth and have flaws and almost like when we read comics, right? You want to go beyond skin deep or beyond superhero suit deep or armor deep, and I think this season is the best season that they've done, arguably besides season 1. Yeah,
this is for you. This is the best season
for me. This is the best because.
Okay.
It made me care about characters I couldn't give a crap about in season 2.
Yeah.
Like Isaac and Hector I didn't care about. Now I care about the vampire sisters and, a different side of Alucard and, Trevor and Sypha's relationship and that growing and how cool that is. And also characters like they meet are not just like one episode characters anymore, right? We had, what's his name? I can't remember. The old guy who's a part of Sypha and Trevor's story throughout the entire
and he went into the portal. We have no idea what's happening.
I think he was like basically going to his wife who was dead, almost like Dracula, which could also be a foil for Dracula as well. Ooh. Or some type
maybe he allows Dracula to come back.
Maybe. So like we have these characters that kind of last a little longer. It's very dark, it's very rich, but the way they're doing the story is very adult, and it's also very good. And it's animation. Again, untapped potential. I can't wait to see what they do next in other shows following suit too in video games.
So, guys, that wraps up this episode of the Jersey Comic Crew podcast. Thank you so much for staying around. Make sure you leave a like, a comment, subscribe. Hit that little bell icon so you know when new episodes are coming out each and every day throughout the week. As always, I'm Rob Moran.
And I'm Chris Heller.
And we'll see you next time.
Jersey Comic Crew, podbean.com.